Is it me or is it you? I can't hear anything.
I can't hear either. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Sometimes I just move my mouth but don't actually say anything. So.
I have an agenda topic for today. Let me add it to the list. I also got the survey results from OPA, so that's something to look at.
Cool. And I have the survey results from Cert Manager. Just let me go and try and remember where I put this. They are somewhere in my. I need to figure out a way to organize my my Google Docs.
It's like
Oh boy. Oh, here we go. Or I forget, I'm just going to put this over there while I begin to open up the other stuff. I guess we could probably get started. I'm sure folks will roll in. I know a lot of folks are going to be on vacation next couple of weeks because of, end of summer kind of thing. Can folks still hear me? Okay, cool. Just making sure. Actually, before we get started, did you all see that ridiculous CVE?
which one?
The one where it turns out there's a Janet Jackson song that the frequency of it can lead to certain older hard drives to crash.
It's a good song.
What?
Yeah, it's a single. Yeah. There's a certain song that is, I guess the frequency of it is causes hard drives to crash.
Wow. Janet Jackson fuzzing.
Yeah.
Wait, so it's a physical problem or is it a software problem?
Oh, it's a physical.
Resonance.
Okay.
Yeah. Resonant frequency kind of thing.
Wow. It's hilarious end of it.
You guys talking about the Janet Jackson thing?
Yeah.
It's either amazing or one of the best documented hoaxes ever.
what you have to do now is someone has to find a exploit for the Rick Roll song.
Yeah. Well, I was also just like, I do wonder just how that sort of thing gets discovered, right? You know, you're just like playing some music, and you're like, why does my computer keep crashing? Anyway,
Every time he plays fan of Janet Jackson, it's like I can't even use my computer. Just thanks for sharing. That was refreshing news. All right, shall we get started? Okay. Let me bring up the I guess before we start, anyone have any agenda items to bring up that we can talk about?
no,
Oh
I
yeah,
think the.
Michael, if you-
Oh, I was gonna. Sorry, go ahead.
I were you talking? I couldn't hear you.
Oh, is there something still wrong with maybe my internet?
No, I hear you right now.
Oh, okay. Because
No.
I've also been. What?
No, it must be Brandon's problem.
Oh, okay, okay. Because also I've been having issues with GitHub all morning, and I don't know if it's GitHub or my internet. I also have like 90 tabs open, so let me try and fix some of that too, just to make sure. But no, I was I think I have some updates regarding the NPM stuff, but I realize it's already on the agenda, so we'll just wait for that. But yeah, Brendan, did you want to kick it off and then we can?
Yeah. So as usual, meetings record live stream, code of conduct on CNCF, both Linux Foundation and Tech Security. Yeah, just be nice. So I think first agenda item we have update on NPM. Michael, it sounds like you had something there, so do you want to share?
Sure. Yeah. So let me see if I have the tab still open. Where's this thing? That's not it. Here we go. So here I posted it in chat, and I'll also post it in the notes here. That's the NPM RFC. So for the folks who I'm sure we all kind of know, but just to kind of reiterate for folks, NPM is looking to use SigStore to start signing packages, as well as using Salsa to start signing. Using Salsa as a way to start having attestations for packages, so we can start to do stuff with the provenance and all that great stuff. For the most part, by and large, everybody is down for the general sort of goal of the thing. Some folks I think are a little worried that this is going to cause additional impact for people, who maybe are used to building this locally. But I think there's some interesting stuff on that front that I think is very applicable to what we're doing and just generally to the Linux Foundation. But so I've been talking with Frederick, who's one of the leads from the NPM GitHub side on some of these things. He's also been attending some of the Salsa meetings. And so we have the Salsa tooling meeting tomorrow, and he'll be on that meeting. There's also, I believe, our NPM RFC meetings that happen on Wednesdays. I don't remember exactly when that is. Somebody, I think Frederick had posted something in the Slack chat on different Frederick. There's a Frederick at GitHub, and then the other Frederick Kautz, who posted something in the supply chain working group.
Yeah, because I saw Frederick Okay, okay. Never mind.
Yeah. So there's two Fredericks. There's one at Google and one who's been posting in our chat. Anyway, so there's some stuff on that front. A lot of the if you look through the comments, most of it is based on sort of minutia and details. There's actually the one big thing which I think is very much relevant to this group is there's some questions about GitHub and everybody else, that they don't want to have the vendor lock-in, right? Like they don't want folks to think that you must use GitHub Actions in order to publish stuff to NPM, because then that is seen as potentially kind of crummy to say the least. And so there's some questions there about, like, for example, if they're going to be using Fulcio, if other services can start federating with Fulcio, then there's options for folks to say, hey, any of these sort of supported build services that federate with Fulcio might be able to sort of do some of that stuff. I've been talking with a few folks on that front regarding sort of Fresca, right? Because there's some chats we've been having with the OpenSSF about maybe running Fresca as eventually, after we sort of build out some more stuff for it, running Fresca as a sort of a service for certain open source tools that can use that for building, where like GitHub doesn't necessarily like fit the bill or whatever. And we're looking at different ways and of maybe using sort of the, Fulcio, getting the OIDC token, having that, feeding that somehow into the Spiffy Spire stuff, and then sort of running it through there. There's a lot of open questions for that, but that's kind of where we're sort of starting to look. And it also sounded like GitHub is also more than willing to, in fact, actually, they're pushing to see where they can also help out from the CNCF and OpenSSF side to make it clear that they are not trying to lock folks into using GitHub Actions. So anything that we can do on that front to kind of say, oh yeah, here's other options folks have, so they don't just sort of look at this and go, oh, this is GitHub clamping down on NPM or something like that. So yeah, that's kind of some stuff on that end. Beyond that, the majority of stuff, if you look at the RFC, at least from my opinion, is mostly smaller sorts of like, I think you kind of like missed the point on this salsa requirement or whatever, right? Like stuff like that. So I recommend folks take a look at it, provide any feedback. I believe they're going to keep having some comments and for a few more weeks. And then I believe they're going to really be pushing hard on integrating some of this stuff into NPM. And then separately, one of the big ones is, there is a tooling gap from the perspective of, I think, ingestion side of things of, hey, they're still, I think, debating about whether it's, when you run an NPM install, is that going to do the verification, or if there's another tool that does it, in conjunction with NPM. Anyway, that's kind of the stuff from the NPM from what I've seen.
Awesome, thanks, Michael. Any question, comments? Okay. If not, let's go to the next topic, which is review survey responses. So I'm gonna open this up in 1 second. Let me do some time management. Okay. I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, so we had three projects respond. it was Kyverno, Opa, and Cert Manager. So maybe let's go through the Cert Manager one first, right? And I think like I would say like the focus of this is to look at how they responded, whether their response kind of could lead to us having certain information that we can take future action on, and also whether maybe they did not respond in a way that was what we were asking for. So I think just keep that in mind while we're going through the survey results. So I think what we'll do is we will go through. Do we want to go through one by one, or do you want to go through like question by question across the board?
I think question by question. That way we can adjust the questions as we go.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear the beeping sound from me, by the way, from background? Okay, 1 second. All right, close the window. Cool. So let's do question by question. First question: when you refer to supply chain security within your organization, which of the following most closely matches what you mean? Cert Manager says both are equally weighted between security artifacts and security of dependencies. We need people to be able to verify that our artifacts are legit, and we need to check on dependencies in turn. Kyverno also says both are equally weighted. Opa also says both are equally weighted. Okay.
Yep, that makes sense.
Any
Yeah, I think
thoughts on
some. I mean, some
this?
of these I think are fairly straightforward.
Yeah, I think because we give two options, I think we really like both of those things. But I think the additional text there is all useful.
Okay. If the additional text is useful, then should we ask why? I feel like the answer is going to be the same though.
Yeah. I mean, I think like largely, I mean, some of this is, I think, a little leading, right? Because we want folks to sort of say C, right? More or less.
I guess should we rephrase this question then, or reframe it, to be like from a scale of 1 to 10, although I don't know what that would mean either. Like,
I mean, I think this is probably fine. Like, I mean, there still might be some folks who are like, hey, well, well, maybe let's kind of go through and then see if anybody else answers differently, and then we can kind of go back.
okay, I think okay. I mean, all of them answered C for this one, so. Okay, what are the most immediate concerns you want to address in software supply chain? They only selected one, which is generating SBOMs for my project. Okay, the rest we have in one way or another all could be improved by SBOMs on the one we lack. Okay. Kyverno says D, hardening provenance of release infrastructure. Opa Gatekeeper says A, C, and D, generating SBOMs. Signing integrity assurance for project releases, hardening and provenance for release build process. Any thoughts on the framing for this question?
No, I don't think so, right? I think it's kind of pretty straightforward. Like, I'm sure some folks are being required to generate S-bombs, regardless of the whether or not it's the whether or not it's useful for today versus useful for tomorrow or whatever. Was it what's which one is C? Hold on, here's it.
C is signing and integrity assurance.
Signing and yeah. And D was hardening provenance of release process. Yeah. Because I think this sort of thing makes sense, and I think also it lines up with some of the stuff that we've been seeing, right? Which is some folks are probably already doing security checks for their projects. Like, I guess I would be interested, and this is maybe something I maybe follow up with some of the folks, which is like I'd be interested to know, like, is it the reason why OPA Gatekeeper says E is not important or is not the immediate concern? Is it because they've already doing E? And so for them, it's,
So should we have a question of like which of the following are you already doing?
Yeah.
And then which are the things that you want to address?
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So that's what's the survey template? This one? No. This one. Okay. So let's write a new question here. Before this question. So for
I'm almost thinking turn this into a range per option. And so for each one of these options, have you already done it? Are you interested in doing it? Or you kind of give them a spectrum to say where they are on that one or whether they think it's not important?
Okay, so gotcha. Is there a way to do a range in Google Docs or Google Forms or SurveyMonkey?
I think so, right? There's like a of course one there was.
Yeah, you can do a table and multiple checkboxes in the table.
Okay. What ranges do we want to put in? Not concerned.
Yeah, not concerned. Maybe somewhat interested. I don't know, something along that lines, like slightly low interest, but not completely not concerned. Going up to actually, it's a high priority, and then followed by we're already doing it. And yeah, there might be some dots between low interest and high priority.
Maybe we can say that high priority means it's on roadmap. Medium priority, maybe I want to put something tangible to these, right? Because I feel like these are subjective. Okay. Sounds good. Are we going to this question? Okay. What tools you use for a bunch of these different things? Cosine, GCP, KMS, Soaring Keys, Google Cloud Build, it's been environment, Trivia, phone scanner, PGP for home chart signing, Kubernetes Prowl for CI testing, dependency pinning using Golang, digest pinning with container images, Kyverno, GitHub Actions, GitHub, Golang, Co, Nancy, Salsa Generator, Trivy, OpenSSF, Callcards, Cosine, Kyverno. And Upa kind of said just a BNE. So I guess the interpretation for this was a bit different here.
Yeah. Well, I think that might just be a misunderstanding because we did say specific CI tools. But maybe I mean, I think given that in the actual Google form, this is going to be probably a text box.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, I don't think there's an issue there. Do we want to change these to actual examples to be like GitHub, GitLab, and then let them be? Because I still see people putting into the text box just copying these things in.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe we just reword those, like we don't put those as letters and we just say, hey, specific CI tools, yada, yada, and then just, I don't know, like, I would almost hand this off to somebody else who maybe could wordsmith it to make sure it's clear. I'm really blanking on how to make like, hey, here's a list of things that we would love to have you talk about. Please don't copy paste this into the box.
Yeah, okay. All right, put a comment here. All right, let's move on. If you have no comments on this. What motivates you to secure end-to-end supply chain? Security is important to us. OPA. Security is important to us. Kyvano. And yeah. Submanager is security as well. Given that all these are security projects, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, so I mean, I do think, obviously, as we go through, some of the tools are not going to be as security focused.
Yeah, I kind of want to reword this to general security practices with security practice, because like when you say security is important to us, it's like attacking their belief system and be like, are you saying the security is not important to you? At least I feel like that may be what's coming across.
Yeah, well, I think some of this is like, some of these things might be like, I mean, at the same time, right? I almost I almost feel like those sorts of questions, nobody's going to be giving you a honest answer except over drinks, right? Like,
So I say you should give them a free beer.
because it's one of those things where, yeah, I went out for drinks with some startups where they said over drinks, oh, we just care about the compliance thing, and we don't like we don't want to focus on this. Like, it's just like whatever. We'll generate you an SBOM, we'll give you an SBOM, whatever. Like, if that's what it requires, yeah. And you're like, yeah, but don't you care about the security piece? Like, oh, we're fine. It's fine. Like, it's not a big deal. But then of course, when you kind of like get them in public, they're like, oh, of course, that's because we value security. So I don't think whether it's a startup or even an open source project, I don't think anybody's going to tell you that security is not important.
Okay. Would it be okay if I reworded this to just general good? I kind of want to remove the hype thing as well. I feel like no one's gonna put that then.
Yeah, I want to.
Yeah, nobody's going to say hype.
I want to see the.
I
one
would
that-
say, other than security is important to us, I would almost rephrase that to be that security is a key deliverable of our product or something along those lines. It's that way someone that is writing a security tool can say, yeah, that this is us. It's part of our tool.
I like that actually. I put the deliverable / aspect of the project.
Yeah. Wordsmith it.
Okay. No, I like that wording. Thanks, Brandon. Okay. Next question. What impact has supply chain incidents kind of English include the vulnerabilities, the compromise of the had on your organization's project? Basically, how many incidents? Well, no. What impact have supply chain incidents? Okay, yeah, had on your organization. Submanager says not aware of it. They rarely see it. Kaivano says routine chore task. Opa says also routine chore task.
Yeah, and outside of that, it might be good to try to capture what the difference is when we say low, medium, high.
Yeah.
We're talking CV scores or something like that.
Yeah. CVSS score? What's it? What's called on CV score? It's correct though. Yeah, CVSS score. I mean, I kind of find this weird because like I think this like is this EL package has a vulnerability or a package you're using has a vulnerability, and you have to do something about it.
I think we're actually looking for something different than CVSS score, right? Because that's like an external measurement. I think it's more like I don't know, like an internal measurement, like how much did you have to think about it and notice it, and how much did it impact your life?
Yeah. Sleepless nights, critical severe impact. Yeah, Marina, do you have any idea how we can like try and give examples of that?
That's a good question. I mean, I think the word impact is correct, but people might not understand. Um,
So I'm gonna give it a
maybe the
stab.
amount
I'll
of
give it-
time that you spent dealing with it.
Yeah, maybe
Okay,
like
alright,
do
yeah.
something like, time, money. Because I mean, I know with some of the open source stuff, it's mostly going to be time, but as we also like some of the folks might say, oh yeah, this cost us a bunch of money because we had to threat model a thing, or we had to buy something to mitigate this thing.
I'm also wondering if we want to quantify the time and the money in terms of percentage. Or like, what 3 hours over what duration is going to be the next question someone's going to ask. And is that the whole team? One person spending 3 hours? So I'm kind of leaning toward a percentage of effort or a percentage of revenue or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like cost is a little bit weird for this because like a lot of these are open source projects as well.
Yeah. But in terms of a percentage of efforts, if you're spending less than 5% of your effort developing the project on security, that might not be too big of an effort. If you're spending more than 50%, you're clearly have some severe issues going on there.
Mm.
And the reason I go for that is it's hard to quantify a number of hours when you've got a single person project versus a 50-person project. The 50-person project is clearly going to have someone spending 3 hours over 50 people.
Would it be? Do you think that because another thing that comes to mind of this is like severity scores with like incident response. Do you think majority of the people would be able to map to that? Because I'm trying to figure out how to quantify this as well. It's a little bit difficult.
Yeah, I don't have a good answer for you there.
Yeah. Like for critical and severe impact, I feel like if we could write like, okay, legal action was required, or like a postmortem report was required and stuff like that. How
Yeah,
about
I
we
think-
do?
I think, I mean, the problem also with some of this is yeah, I mean, it's going to be very, very different if you're a team of 2 versus a team of 200.
Yeah, why don't I don't know. Maybe this should be an open-ended question for impact. And then we can determine based on what they say.
Sure.
Challenge is in how do you normalize an
Yeah.
open-ended question?
Well, yeah, I mean, I do think that like you could probably say, hey, look, can you describe, the impacts, that, and then we'll just have to kind of figure it out. Because I think like with some of it is right. I mean, it's going to be very different for like Kubernetes, let's say, to potentially update something that's everywhere in their code versus, I don't know, like some new CNCF project that's in the sandbox where they're like, oh yeah, it took us like, a couple of hours. Yeah, I don't know.
Are we trying to get an idea on how much time they spend responding to the incidents, and then should we have like what's the percentage of time that your project spends remediating or protecting against supply chain incidents? Then it's like
I think
a
probably the
slider.
percent of overall time is probably going to be really low, but it's like when it happens, what's the like what does that week look like? I think is the bigger question.
Can we put a pin in this maybe? So,
Could also be percent of commits and PRs as well.
yes. I mean, I'd like to flip this on our head and ask maybe, because it seems like we're having a hard time writing this question. What are we trying to get out of this question?
I think we're trying to get like I don't know how much of I mean the impact, which is of course the word that we have here, but like what's the big deal? Like, do you care about this? Has it actually in real terms had an impact on your life and your project?
So in terms of like from the working group perspective, right? I think one of the objectives is like figure out like how we can help the project. So with this, with getting an idea on what the impact is, like, I guess my question is like, would we be able to change how we respond to how people generally react to this? Like, would it be like, oh, if a lot of people have high impact responses, then maybe we write a guide on how to respond to incidents and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it can also kind of motivate our work. Like if everyone's saying this is pretty low impact, maybe we shouldn't put a ton of resources into this. But if this is like really making people's lives miserable in a bunch of CNCF projects, this is something that we should maybe find external funding for, figure out ways to make this less of an impact on developers.
Yeah, I mean, this was one of the things we were talking about earlier, right? Was like some folks we were thinking like, hey, does it make sense to go out to the CNCF and say we want to implement the supply chain security best practices for some projects and also the reference architecture and so on. But like some of the things that we ran into, right, was how do we make that we got pushed back on like what projects and how do we make that analysis without first better understanding where folks are in the CNCF, like where folks underneath the CNCF are in sort of their supply chain journey and whether or not they even find it valuable. Because like I think if nobody finds it valuable, and we actually do have like through all the reports that we've been seeing, supply chain attacks do cost a ton of money. And so maybe the problem there becomes more of an education problem, right? But if people do value it, then okay, great. Now we can look at different projects to start working with.
So I guess my question is, should we word it as like, what are the pain points of security incidents for you? Right, whether it's like you have to update your dependencies, it sounds like we're trying to get the annoyance level rather than the actually like how impactful was the thing.
Well, I mean, I think those are tied together, right? Like um like I mean, I'm trying to think of how we better um like if I think about the log4j thing, right? That was a huge impact. Not really CNCF because a lot of the CNCF related projects are in Go and not really in Java. There's a few yada, but it's probably wasn't as big of an impact. But I guarantee you, if it turns out like I don't know, let's just say for a second,
Loggers.
What was it?
Loggers.
Yeah, exactly. If something like that had some massive vulnerability, all of a sudden all the CNCF projects would be freaking out, right?
So should the question be, if a log4j equivalent incident happened for your project, how readily would you be able to respond? Because it by chance a project may not have had any critical vulnerabilities, right? But that doesn't mean it's in a good position than a
Yeah.
project that has had impact from vulnerabilities.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Should we ask about then, like, what do you have in place to respond to supply chain security incidents?
Yeah, that maybe is better.
Brandon and Marina, any thoughts?
Yeah, it sounds fine. I think that'll get at the same goal, maybe being a little clearer.
No objection here.
Go ahead. Oh, no objection. Okay. Rephrase. What do you have in place to handle secure supply? So besides the char dependencies tasks, what other things do you have here that we can add? Like security SMEs responsible. thoughts on this?
I was on mute. Does it also make sense to maybe separate a little bit of, or add something in addition, which is like, because I know we have a little bit of it above, right? Because it's almost like we have two things here. One is, what are your preventive measures for supply chain stuff? Like, what are you doing for a general hygiene and that sort of thing, right? Like, oh, we're using these CI/CD tools and we're signing it, and we're using Sigstore for signing, and we're using Salsa, and we're using all these things, and that helps us sort of say this is why we think we're protected against certain kinds of supply chain attacks. But obviously, then from the upstream perspective of like, what if one of your dependencies gets attacked? Like, what are you doing, or how are you handling those sorts of things? That's kind of where I'm seeing some of that kind of come together, if that makes sense.
The one is preventive and one is reactive, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I know.
And obviously, some of this
understand,
will change, right? If, just to give you an idea, right, of still, it doesn't prevent the preventive stuff. Even if you have the perfect preventive stuff, that still doesn't detect like, oops, it turns out we had a vulnerability here.
Yeah. Okay. No, this makes sense. Are we happy with this? I'll reword it. Oh, if someone wants to take a stab at rewording it, all the more. Okay, question 6. Will you be interested in joining a pilot program for recommendation guidelines? I'm assuming this is no from OPA in the short term, but in the long term, yes. Yes from Kyverno, and yes from Cert Manager. It sounds like maybe it should be no, not now, or no, but in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense, because I think
Okay. None of them answered besides Kyverno hours per week, I think. Right. Some of them say a few hours a week. OPA didn't respond. Kyverno said 1 to 2 hours a week.
yeah,
I think that's
makes
fine.
sense. Yeah, and like, once again, this is, we're inevitably going to get folks who fill out some of the stuff and give us different answers, and we'll just, like, once we start to compile all the info, I'm sure the folks, just to be clear, I'm sure the folks that answer the most and give the most detailed stuff are probably going to be the ones who want to invest some time in this anyway.
Yeah. Okay. What does your stack look like? Kyverno didn't answer. Go GitHub Actions. Project dependencies found here. Golang Kubernetes. I think this is fine. How large is the project? Yeah, I think all of them responded to this. Fox
that's
and
easy.
maintainers. Fox and stars. Number of maintainers. I think this is fine. What else could CNC attack be doing to help? Checklists to assess current state of supply chain security would be useful. Practical examples of how one will go about securing a project would help too. Help with solve problems generation and compliance audit assessment. And oh, this is a huge one. We don't have to go through this. I mean, it sounds like it's good feedback, right? So
Yeah.
question remains. Okay, so I think we have pretty. Go ahead.
Oh no, never mind. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say I think it looks like we have a pretty good handle on this now. So I think we just have to edit it a little bit, and then we should be good to launch for a survey. Any thoughts?
Yeah, no,
Would
it looks
someone-
good.
Okay.
Oh
Would
yeah,
someone
Brendan gave
want to?
thumbs up.
Awesome. Would someone want to help with kind of rewording like the couple of things that we mentioned today?
Yeah, I can. Can you just put me in there, and I'll help out.
Okay.
Might not be able to get to it till next week, but we'll see.
Okay. Cool. I think this was the only one that we had to reword. And then if you wanted to add like the preventive aspect of it here, so I guess
Yeah.
you could. Cool. If not, I think we should be good to go. And next week we just take a final look through, and then we will give it to the CNCF to set it up. Cool. We're at time. I wanted to touch on like the compromise catalog. Just want to make people aware that OpenSSF has effort to also look at this.
Yep.
So wanted to get. Yeah, I think we can discuss this next week. I think.
Yeah, there was some conversations back and forth about trying to make it significantly more of a collaborative sort of effort where maybe the OpenSSF holds on to it, but we focus on cloud native supply chain compromises or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds good.
Cool.
All right,
Well,
thanks.